What's your name?
Hi everybody, my name's Dominic. Welcome to Street Health Team in Leeds. So this is our clinical vehicle that travels around Leeds and goes and meets patients in their reality, taking patient care right to their feet. It's clean, it's private. Yeah.
Who do you have here?
Oh, hello. My name is Angelique. I'm the homeless outreach nurse with Bevan Healthcare. And welcome on our bus. So we've got loads of stuff on here.
So all the cupboards are full of overdose kits, things to take people's bloods. There's some dressings over here for leg wounds. There's some OBS equipment for sexual health and swabbing wounds and doing OBS. And then the best is down here. This is what I call the tuck box. Just full of food. So they're like instant noodles and little pots of rice. And just kind of little things that you might need, sanitary products, pants, coats, that kind of stuff. I don't know, it's an incentive, kind of make it a little bit more attractive and keep people with us for longer if they're it enables us to achieve more healthcare. And then behind Ange is the ensuite. So we've got a little toilet there.
We've got smear, women's health, womb health type stuff back here.
Yeah.
And then anything for basic life support as well, if needed. And then just the loo around here, but I won't open that.
Come on, let's get in.
There is pride and joy. There we go. Ta-da!
Oh, it's got a scale and everything.
Which is
Look
cool.
at that.
Which is cool. Nice and clean.
Nice and clean.
And
It's
big,
got
you know, like
info.
people can get
Look at
changed
this.
in here and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
100%.
So, we walked here from the train. You guys were talking about a situation with a guy. Tell me a bit about what we'll do today.
So today the plan is this gentleman has an accommodation, which is great, and he's in a homeless hostel. So what we're going to do is go see him and do some wound care if he allows us to. Hopefully he does. And then the plan also is to try and get him into hospital because we're worried he might have a deep vein thrombosis and he definitely needs an urgent scan and treatment for it. But we're just struggling a little bit to get him to break that barrier to get him into hospital at the moment. So fingers crossed we might be able to today. If not, we'll try it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the day after.
That's so
Or
good.
just do it.
It's hard as well, isn't it? Because like that's a time sensitive piece of treatment that he needs, but you I suppose as a more traditional healthcare professional you kind of might go, okay, you need to have it now.
Yes.
And if you're not ready to have it now, then we'll just move on to the next person. Whereas that inclusion approach is you need to tell him about the risks,
Yes.
but go by their time because they, you know, someone who's got to be willing to do it when they're ready. That can be quite a thing to shoulder, you know,
Yes.
waiting for the right moment.
And you're worried about, you know, what the worst case scenario as well as healthcare professionals. In that instance, you know, like where is he going to be if the clot moves and he ends up with like a pulmonary embolism and he, you know, might die. And that's immediately where my head goes, you know. I just really worry about it, and it's really hard to not take that home as well. Because you just worry about them. But you know, it's the job that we do, and it's important, you know, because hopefully it's saving lives as well. So yeah.
You guys talked about him having emergency accommodation and then maybe temporary accommodation. Does he have a housing worker that helps him with permanent accommodation?
Yeah, so as our service users come into some form of accommodation, a housing assessment will have been done at that point. Now that might be quite minimal to provide the emergency housing, but then other support workers wherever that emergency housing will gather more information and work out what's available, what's the right kind of offer, what's going to work, what's not going to work, risk assessments, those kind of things. You know, the ideal housing is based on health and social care needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, you know, we've got a real housing shortage here in Leeds. And it's the costly bit, isn't it? The housing takes a long time to set up and costs a lot to run. So, you know, there's a finite resource, and trying to dynamically manage that around people's lives and daily schedule is a 24-hour job.
And then the sort of like, you know, if you're thinking you're lucky and you get to the point of accommodation, it's like one of the things that then you're worried about is the support that they have whilst they're there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you know it's no good just sending them off and then just leaving them. You know, they're still people with lots of trauma and issues, and you know, like you're saying, like health needs, and sometimes that is also an issue because of the amount of resources around that. To have someone to be there with them and to you know, support them through that transition, because that's quite a big thing. And I think that's it. And that's, I think, one of the things that I've noticed quite a lot when they do move into accommodation. It's really just not.
It's a critical time. It's a critical time, and as a professional, you kind of think, okay, this person's safer. They're in warm, dry, and actually, maybe the situation has got worse because you've taken somebody from an environment that they're really familiar with, and you're putting them in an environment which we might find normal, but it's not, you know, and that is really traumatic. It's really isolating. Sometimes people's risks, you know, can increase in those situations. Whether that's from their own behaviour or whether it's from them being vulnerable to other people, thinking, okay, this person's got a house now, what can I use that person's house to do? So like we have a thing called cuckooing, which another way of describing that would be a home invasion. So where somebody with usually drug dealing will attract an addict initially, and then use that resource of somebody's flat to enable them to sell more, and whether that's to attract other drug users to come into the house, or just, you know, other things like use the house for sex working, and so it's a time to really support people when they're moving on.
Do they have workers that do that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But again, limited resources.
Yeah, we call them navigators because what they're helping the service users to do is navigate the world. Our systems are so complicated. You know, even I sometimes am thinking, okay, who do I refer to? Who's like, I can't work out the way through the system. So, yeah, like navigation, I think is a really good word for it.
Is there anybody that does those assessments for housing for people while they're rough sleeping, or do they have to go to the hostel to?
Yeah, so we have we do have some housing workers working in the outreach environment. They tend to work in places like food drop-ins and stuff like that. But there are people working on the street, literally going to people that are unsheltered, and we have a reduced housing form for that.
Okay.
Because the reality is you're not going to do a full housing assessment in the street. It would be inappropriate. You want to go into lots of detail. But do you need all that detail? So there was a time in the past where all that detail was demanded before an offer was made.
Yeah.
And it was pointed out you're never going to get all that detail in the street. So we need to reduce that form. So the housing office produced what they call a partner form. And any of the people working with homeless people in Leeds, so a partner, so that might be healthcare, that might be social support, so benefits, that might be other frontline outreach workers, can fill in that form, and that usually gives the local authority housing office enough to go on to get the ball rolling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell me how you go about finding the people you need to care for?
So it'll be different, slightly different from me and Dom. I feel like mine's a bit easier. So my focus, my primary focus, aside from one club, which is rough sleepers and those who are accommodated, but for some reason there's a barrier to appointments, clinical appointments. Aside from one club, my role is mostly focused on our patients who are in emergency accommodation, temporary accommodations, and sometimes some dispersed accommodations. So that's why I'll provide nursing care. So generally speaking, there's support workers in there. So, I can say, I'm going to be here at that time, or, in the AM on that day, and then they can be reminded by the support worker. If they're lucky, they might still have a phone, so I may be able to get in touch with them. But generally speaking, if they're on the street, it will be hoping to find them in the time or place that they normally are in, or it will be the other workers that works with them, like navigators, street health team. We can send an alert to them sometimes to say, has anyone seen so and so today? And then someone can give us a ring. I think we're quite good. I mean, I don't know whether Dom will agree, in terms of like collaborative work, like in Leeds, like with different organisations.
Good.
So we work with the council, we work with the third sector, which is your charities, and then just different support groups, adult social care as well. So we work as a team together to support people experiencing homelessness. So I think that's quite good, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you send an alert? Is it a system or an app or just like an email? Okay.
It's either a call to, so there's some people who sort of know where, generally speaking, might know where everyone is staying or know who to get in touch with to find out where someone is based.
Yeah.
And they're based at the council. And so we can ring them or we can send them an email, and then they send a note to the outer, the wider outreach team, the homelessness team.
Nice.
And then sometimes to find them. But yeah, it's quite good.
How about you, Dom?
What's your way?
Yeah, so I was going to cover a few things. So in the UK, we have a app on your smartphones called StreetLink. And any member of the public can report somebody rough sleeping, and that sends an alert email to some kind of outreach team that's covering the city that the email was destined for.
Okay.
So in Leeds, that goes to our commissioned, so the local authority commissioner service, to do frontline outreach work. So some referrals from the public come in from there.
Okay.
And that's quite useful, especially if people are maybe not in sight. People might see somebody in a tent on a dog walk, or in a park when they're there with their kids, or when they're passing through an area, and I don't know, sometimes you get a report and somebody says, I can see this tent when I'm going through on a train, I can see it out the window of the train, and that can be really useful. So those alerts are set up in every city in the UK. That's quite a good scheme. But the network is great that Andrew was talking about. So we have a collaborative, commissioned bunch of services looking after homeless people in Leeds, and those services cover mental health, drug and alcohol use, healthcare, healthcare in hospitals, healthcare in the community, the navigation that we spoke about, so those support workers in the community, housing, social workers, and then a big proportion of that is the third sector. People running street kitchens, people doing often faith-based groups doing their own support, which is good, but it only is good if they're connected into the big picture. Otherwise, they can feel very alone, and maybe some of their services are not so joined up with the bigger system. So it is really important to involve the third sector, and you can offer them training and bring on their skills in things like safeguarding and being trauma informed, and how to support their volunteers. It's a hard job. We're paid to be here. Some people are volunteering, and that they're doing amazing work. We need to recognise that, and they're working in some really traumatic situations. But
Yeah.
I think one of the keys, and it's a skill that we both have that maybe we don't pick up so much, but working in a city with a group of unsheltered people, there's a narrative. It's like a series on television. There's characters and there's a story, and that story changes, and their lives go from being accommodated to being unaccommodated, what we might call doing well or not doing well, you know, whether that's health, whether that's mental health, whether that's physical health, periods maybe in custody or in prison.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it's just up here, you know, a lot of it's just like, you start to see somebody more regularly, and you're just, however many computer systems you have and tasks and automatic alerts and notes that you write and reminders, a lot of it is just, we need to live their life a little bit, and by doing that we will become part of the narrative.
Yeah.
And that's where the relationship is. Because if you are part of the narrative, you understand, you feel, you experience a bit of their life. By no means the terror that they're experiencing, but you have some kind of understanding of the experience.
Yeah.
And hopefully by doing that, you can be more real and authentic and trusted.
Absolutely.
That's so good. What a great rundown there, you guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we'll shut this off so we can get to work.
Yeah.